The Holdovers is a movie that came out recently. And of course, what's a good way of starting off the Christmas holiday by releasing a Christmas movie in November? Matter of fact, I think it even came out in October. But of course, The Holdovers is a movie that was submitted in film festivals, as they made sure you knew. But of course, and if not, I will clarify, but I'm pretty sure it did, unless I'm going blind. But of course, The Holdovers. First, we'll go obviously non-spoilers and then spoilers. So, non-spoiler, it's a great movie. It's a great movie. I think it captures the holiday spirit very well. And of course, it is shot very, I don't say uniquely, but it does replicate the old-timey Christmas movies, right? And of course, they did kind of try to make it feel like it was shot with old cameras, even though you could clearly tell it was not. Especially in the later half, I don't know if your eyes just adjust to it and just forget about the tiny little filters they put on. But you can't even tell that it was supposed to be shot for an old movie. But in the beginning, you could clearly tell, right? But of course, what I think? I think this has a great cast, great cinematography, great set designs, great locations. I think it's a great story. And of course, like most of these, I call them film bro movies, but this film bro movie, like most others, doesn't really have a happy ending. That's the only spoiler I'll give. Won't be a happy ending. But of course, you got the main characters, of course, and they are some good actors, and I mean it. Of course, you got Paul, Angus, and Mary. And of course, you got other ones. Although they're not main characters, they do appear in the beginning of the movie. And those are some really good ones too. Although there's some nitpicks, is that they're kind of rude people. I get that's the whole point because they even explain it. But damn, some of them just make me be like, I want to punch this guy in the face. And of course, like I said, it's a great movie. It's not that long. It's 2 hours and 13 minutes, which is, I don't want to say kind of long, but it might be a little longer. But you don't feel it. You don't feel it at all. It's a great movie. It's a great movie. It runs through the 2 hours like butter. And yeah, the only thing I could find wrong about the movie is just like most other movies, it's just not your cup of tea. That's about it. It's just not your cup of tea. It's a great Christmas story. And like in the title says, it could be a classic. Could it be? It could be, but the only reason why I think it might not be is for the fact that families probably can't watch the movie. Not as in it's rated RR, right? Because it is rated R, but it's not. It's more just swearing, right? But of course, it's more so the fact that it's very emotional. You got 3 different people with 3 different stories going on. 2 of them, or one of them, and the other 2 you got to slowly unravel as the movie goes on. But of course, it gets you pretty sad. There's a scene in the movie that, although it doesn't say too much, but it says enough for you to figure out what's going on, and it gets really sad. Although I didn't cry, if you watch it with a big group, maybe you might catch someone crying. I'm just saying. And of course, that is the end of the spoiler-free review. Like I said, it's a great shot movie. It's a good cinematography, great acting. The runtime doesn't feel that long. Good cast. Actually, it's great music too. The music that they choose and the music that they make, very good. But of course, now we're getting into the spoiler review. And of course, like I said, click off, watch the movie. I highly recommend it. I mean it. I really highly recommend it. But then we'll get to the spoiler review right about now. Alright, now we're getting into the spoilers of the movie, although the trailer does show it, so it's not truly spoilers. But of course, the Holdovers is, holdovers, right? Basically, you got a teacher in a very, very nice school. Obviously, a school full of rich people, you clearly tell. And of course, it's winter break, and the parents come to pick him up. And the students who aren't able to be, picked up by their parents, or maybe actually just left behind because, they did bad in school or whatever, they are held over, right? Throughout winter break, and the teacher has to take care of them. And of course, that goes to Paul, because the original teacher lied, saying his mother had a condition or something. And of course, everyone knew that he was lying, but of course, Paul was being punished for the sole fact that he failed a student whose parents donated like something to the gym, right? Basically, I donated something to the school, so maybe you could do something nice for me type stuff. Of course, Paul's like, I'm not doing that. The hell? They could donate 10 gymnasiums. I could care less. And of course, he is one of the old school teachers, very strict does not really too lenient, as the whole class in his ancient civilization class basically failed the test, except the main character Angus, but he got a B plus, so whatever. Basically said, oh, okay, you don't like your grades? All right, that's cool. You can redo the test. Like, all right, let's go. After break. And it will be new material, so you have to study over break, like, bruh. Oh, okay, whatever. Of course, Paul stays behind, Angus stays behind, and other students, right? Two, basically, kids Angus's age. Although they are very enjoyable for, like, I think they're in for the first quarter of the movie. They're very enjoyable, although some are not, and they're very annoying, and, that's the whole point, that Paul thinks of them as a bunch of spoiled brats, and although most of them are, Mary kind of puts him in his place. Also, Mary is there too, because her son unfortunately passed away on duty. Obviously, her son was in the military, and unfortunately passed away. And of course, he was part of the school, and she said, "Well, I want to spend one last Christmas in the place that my son used to be." Basically, right? But of course, she tells Paul right in his face, "Yeah, maybe you shouldn't say that, because you don't know what the kids have been through, because just because they're rich doesn't mean they're immune to struggle," which makes sense. And of course, like I said, it goes through this entire story where of course Paul starts to loosen up a little bit more, right? We later figure out more about him. We figure out why Angus is the way he is, and Mary has to still deal with the loss of her son. Obviously not a very good thing to do, or not a very nice thing to deal with. But of course, we later find out that Paul was basically a screw up. He was part of Harvard, and then he got kicked out of Harvard because his roommate accused him of cheating, and as Paul said, he actually cheated off of Paul. But then since he had people in the faculty, it doesn't matter. He could just snitch and they just get him out, right? Obviously, and he does. He messes up everything, and of course, he never really gets on his feet. But until he lands, this job. Of course, Angus, although we kind of figure out early in the movie, he kind of lies about it and we get to know the truth. Of course, his parents are divorced, but of course, he first says that his dad is dead, which, is very sad. And on their way to, because Angus manages to convince Paul to go to Boston, right? Because that's where he really wants to go. And that's why he got mad at his mom, because his mom left him behind because she wanted to spend time with her new husband, right? I think family too, or just her husband, right? But he really wanted to go to Boston, and of course he got pretty pissy. And the reason is because his dad's not actually dead. His dad's in a mental institution for, I think it's dementia. And I did say there was a scene that really tears you up, but is that he goes there because he asked Paul, like, I gotta go, like, where are you going? You can't go anywhere, because the whole point of going to Boston was to visit his dad. But Paul didn't know. He thought he was just ditching him, right? He said, I just want to visit my dad. He's like, okay, fine. Let's go. Like, what? Like, yeah, I'm not going to not let a kid see his dead dad. We're going to go to a cemetery, right? Like, we could go to a cemetery. But no, his dad is alive. Like I said, he is a mental institution. In this one scene, he goes up to his dad. He still loves him, obviously. Of course, he is not well at all. Obviously, that's why he's checked in. And the one thing that his dad says, because he was quiet throughout the entire time, Angus was talking to him, telling him about school. He says, I think they're putting something in my food. And of course, with Angus's face, you could clearly tell that his dad, although physically was there, everything else of him was basically dead. He quite literally doesn't have a dad anymore. The dad that he used to know, the one he grew up with, the one who loved him, is dead. He's gone. And it's just really sad. And of course, Mary, although kind of doesn't get over the death of her son, obviously, hasn't even been a year, she does find a little bit, I don't want to say closure, but a little bit of happiness knowing that her sister is pregnant. She's been pregnant, but she finally lets go of her son by putting the baby clothes in his, in the drawer, right? Basically letting go, I do think stuff like that is very sad. And of course, that's what I mean by it could be a Christmas classic, but I don't think so, because the family can't watch it. Because guys, I would not show my children this. This thing gets sad, but it's also a really good movie. It's also really funny too. Although there's really sad parts, when there isn't any sad parts, it's very regularly funny. And good jokes, good delivery. I think it's good. Very wholesome. as Angus said, this is the first time he's had Christmas dinner with a family in a long time. I do think it is very, very wholesome. It's a very good movie. It's hard for me to describe something like this, but if I were to give this a rating, I'd give this a solid 8, 8.5, maybe even 9 out of 10. This is a really, really good movie. You know, like I said, it doesn't end on a good note because Paul gets fired for taking the blame of why they were at Boston. Now, obviously, they're not supposed to leave the campus, but of course, he really wanted to go to Boston. And like I said, it's Christmas. It's like, okay, fine. We went on a field trip, right? Of course, Angus basically ditched and went to go see his dad, although Paul did go with him. It was obviously Angus' idea, and then the parents were like, "Why the hell would you do that?" Now, we have to move his dad to a different institute because he got violent because that's this will happen. The decline of his mental health, right? And of course, like I don't know how Angus did it. I don't know how he manipulated you. And of course, like he says, no, it was my idea. It was my idea because obviously he lived on a code of no lying. But of course, sometimes there are situations where you lie. But of course, where does he go? He goes to I think Carthage or Athens or somewhere in Greece, right? Because one of his lifetime goals is to write a book about ancient civilizations, right? And of course, although he did get fired from a job, it is a new beginning in a new location. Hopefully, it does go well for the fictional Paul. But of course, like I said, this is a very good movie. My words don't do this justice. It's so hard for me to rate these types of movies because it's just like I don't know how to talk about it. But it's a really, really good movie. I highly recommend it. Like I said, Discount Tuesday is always your friend. But if not, paying full price isn't that bad either. But like I said, hope you enjoy this movie, and I'll catch you in the next one.